Over the past 3 years, we've consistently sent over 5 million cold emails for ourselves and on behalf of the 40 plus clients that we've had the pleasure of working with. And after testing hundreds of changes and techniques and different workflows, we found 15 things that significantly boosted our campaign performance, email deliverability, and just the overall number of calls that we've been able to book compared to previous years by a significant margin. So in this video, I'm going to show you what these 15 things are and how you can implement them directly to your business so that you can also start booking more qualified calls and scaling your revenue with cold email. Back in 2022 and 2023, cold email was a lot easier to succeed with because there weren't nearly as many people out there that were putting together mass cold email marketing campaigns like you see today. The average Joe couldn't just go into Smart Lead or Instantly, which have gotten much more popular over the years, to spend a couple of hours on a weekend spinning up some new domains, inboxes, and then mass email marketing tens of thousands of prospects on any given month. That also meant that email security firewalls and spam filters weren't nearly as strong a couple of years ago. And fast forward a couple of years now to 2025, cold email has drastically changed, and you really can't afford to be lazy and miss any parts of the campaign creation process. Otherwise, your cold email campaigns are going to completely plummet, like many of you have probably already seen over the past couple of months. Tip number one is you want to allocate all of your cold email infrastructure across many different subdomains and not send emails from your main domain. So what I mean by that is my website is buzzly.io, and I do not want to be using my nick@buzzly.io account or email to actually send cold emails to prospects. You could do it for a little while and I'm sure you'll have great deliverability, but the problem is over time, you're gonna start getting marked as spam, and the more you get marked as spam, the lower your main domain's reputation is. And then all of a sudden you might find yourself in a situation where your emails to your own employees or colleagues or even your clients are landing in spam, and that's because you burned your domain reputation. So for that reason, you set up a whole bunch of variations of subdomains, and you set up 2 inboxes for each of those subdomains. And that might look like getbuzzly.com, trybuzzly.com, and the inboxes could be Nick and Troy at getbuzzly.com, trybuzzly.com. Tip number 2, and this is something that I always preach about, is to spend more time building out your lead lists and try to create segmented personas as opposed to just using a spray and pray method where you reach out to anybody that could potentially be a fit for your service. The problem that I see so many people do is they're in a rush, or they're in a hurry, and they want to just reach out to tens of thousands of people. And then they're just using things like different job titles, industry filters, and they end up having a huge lead list. But the problem is that lead list is probably 40 to 50% inaccurate. And the other problem is that the pain points that your solution is addressing and the message, how you're delivering your actual solution and solving a problem for somebody, is gonna vary greatly depending on what role they have within their organization. Number 3, do everything that you can to not get marked as spam by email service providers. And of course, it's a lot easier said than done, and there's a number of different ways that you could get marked as spam by these email service providers like Google and Outlook. But some of the biggest and most common mistakes that I see people do is they include a bunch of links, such as like a scheduling link to actually schedule a meeting, or they add different images, or they just add a whole bunch of spam trigger words into their copywriting. So those might be words like discount, savings, free. All of those things are very easily identified by email service providers like Microsoft and Google. And really their main job is they want to keep their clients happy. And their clients have gotten very frustrated because they don't stop getting spam emails from 20 to 50 people on any given day. And so the biggest thing that you could do to get trapped by the spam filters is to include a whole bunch of links and images within your cold email campaigns. And another big thing and a big mistake that I see people do is they track open rates. And it's really just a vanity metric, but when you're tracking open rates, 1, you're adding image pixels to your copywriting, so it's another pixel that Microsoft and Google can easily pick up on. But 2, the open rates are not accurate. So you might think that you're getting a 60 or a 70% open rate, when in reality, if somebody has like that Apple Mail icon on their phone, it's gonna show that they're opening up that email, even if they're not. So really, all I could suggest is making sure that you don't have any links, HTML text only, and then just make sure that you don't have any pixels or added images or spam words. And that way you're at least passing the first test and giving yourself better odds of landing in the inbox. Number 4, and this is huge, we use a burner domain surplus strategy whenever we're setting up our email accounts and our domains. And what that means is you really only need to have a certain amount of accounts to successfully send a specific number of emails on any given month. But the problem is it's not a matter of if your domains and inboxes are gonna go bad, it's a matter of when your domains and inboxes are gonna go bad. So by what I mean by this burner domain surplus strategy is you want to set up 1.5 to 2 times as many subdomains and inboxes than you really need. And let's say you want to reach out to 1,000 prospects on any given day. You could get by having 40 email accounts sending 25 emails a day. That'll send 1,000 emails a day from those active accounts, but you want to have another 20 to 40 inboxes, so that would be 10 to 20 subdomains sitting on the side that are literally just acting as back burner inboxes and domains, and you have those constantly warming up at all times. And so they're using a warm-up functionality where they're basically building their reputation. And then if you notice that your reply rates on your main campaign with the 40 active inboxes sending 1,000 emails a day, if you notice your response rates really starts to trickle down and starts to plummet, now all of a sudden you have fresh, warmed up domains and inboxes that you could swap in at any given time to make sure that you keep your email deliverability high at all times. Number 5, qualify your lead list before you launch your campaigns. And it kind of ties together with what I had mentioned about building and spending more time on your lead list, but it's really that important. And you can't rely on industry filters or keywords because a lot of that data is very inaccurate. And a perfect example is my company, buzzlead.io. We're a marketing and advertising company, but if you look at my company on LinkedIn, you're gonna find that we're business consulting and services. And so the same thing applies to so many other industries where they're miscategorized. And if you're relying on those industry filters, then all of a sudden you're gonna realize that your lead list is 55 to 60% accurate. And those 40 to 45% companies and contacts that are not necessarily a fit for your service are going to be the ones that are most likely to mark you as spam and get annoyed because you're reaching out to them with an irrelevant message. Number 6, let's say you've got a great lead list. Now it's time to write the actual copy, the scripts themselves. You want to keep your cold email copy and the scripts themselves short, to the point, and try to keep them under 45 words max if you can. And a way that we're doing this, and a lot of times people will try to pack all the value and all the details and all the benefits and features in one email. But with cold email, you're reaching out to people cold. Your goal is to sell the appointment and not to sell the service itself. You could save the context for when you're on that sales call. And so what I suggest is leading with front-end offers where you're basically value packing your email with front-end free work or a mini solution that solves a specific problem that your ideal customer has that your solution can address. But here's an example that I would use for my own outreach. Hey John, I'm sure you already know how difficult it is pulling great IT hardware value-added reseller lead list, so I built a sample list for you. Do you mind if I share that with you here? P.S. We can book you 12 calls a month with companies just like Mainline. Number 7, you need to, monitoring your domains and your inbox health is an absolute must if you want to keep your deliverability strong at scale. And really you just want to know, are your emails actually being delivered or are they going to spam? And Google and Microsoft, they're basically trained and they have algorithms to basically identify spammers, and they're making it really hard for you to actually get your message to the people that you want to open it. And so there's really 2 approaches on how you can monitor your email deliverability. One way, if you don't have that many accounts and you don't have that many different campaigns that are going on, is you could simply just keep an eye on your reply rates. And if you notice that your reply rates are less than 1% or your bounce rates are higher than 4%, then there's a very, very high likelihood that your emails are just not getting delivered. They're actually going to spam. Now, this might be a little bit harder to do unless you're keeping an eye on everything. So there are great tools. One that I highly recommend, it's called Email Guard, which actually allows you to run inbox placement tests on your email sending accounts in an automated fashion on a weekly basis. So that way you could see, are your emails landing in spam or are they landing in the inbox? Number 8, shorten your email sequences to 2 steps, and that will allow you to reach 2 times as many leads and also reduce your chances of getting marked as spam. And the reason I say this is, of the 5 million plus emails that we sent back in 2024, 80% of the positive replies in the meetings that we booked came from the first and second emails of our sequences, of our email sequence campaigns. And then 80% of the spam complaints that we got came from emails 3 and 4. So what does that show us? All of the positive engagement that we get from our emails come from the first 2 emails, and all of the spam reports that are affecting our deliverability for the long term are coming at emails 3, 4, and the later ones in the sequence. So what we're doing is we're just creating shorter email sequences where it's just 2 steps, and after you run through those 2 steps, if people haven't responded, it's probably because they're not interested at the time. You could always come back to those leads at a further, down the road time, and you could change up your offering and your positioning, and you're really just allowing yourself to reach twice as many prospects while reducing the amount of spam complaints that you get, keeping your deliverability high, and keeping all of those, 1 and 2 step positive responses coming at an ongoing basis. So you could really reach a lot more people and then just reduce any sort of risk of deliverability plummeting. Step number 9, create one-of-one offers for every prospect in your lead list. And again, this is one that's a little bit easier said than done, But instead of just using a static offer across all leads and then just using that spray and pray method and hoping that something you throw sticks, I would really use tools like clay.com, where you can integrate ChatGPT and Claude, and you could basically analyze your whole lead list and create different segmented groups or different personas, like different buckets of people. And then you could use Cloud to actually create personalized pain points and tailor your offer accordingly based off who they are within that lead list. And so then, while somebody on the other end is just receiving an automated email from a large campaign that you've run, in reality, all you did is you're using ChatGPT to automate all this stuff at scale. But to them, it looks like you hand wrote each of these emails one by one. And I guarantee your results are going to skyrocket literally through the roof if you're making it look like you took the time to actually do research on each of these people. You have a pain point that speaks to a big problem they have, and then you have a personalized solution that addresses them as an individual. Step number 10, cut your campaigns off immediately after a couple of days if you notice that your response rates are less than 1% after just a few days of sending. The odds are, if it's less than 1%, unless you're working in a very high enterprise market, your responses should be anywhere from 3 to 5%. And if you notice that it's less than 1% within a couple of days, odds are you're dealing with some major deliverability issues. And so rather than just letting that campaign run its course, I would immediately pause the campaign. I would run an inbox placement test if you can, using Email Guard to see if your emails are actually landing in the inbox. And then I would make sure that your lead list, did you qualify beforehand? Is the lead list actually targeted? Are these people relevant to the offer that you're addressing? And then I would also take a look at your scripts to make sure that you're creating those one-to-one personalized offers to each of those prospects. And then I would resume your campaign. But there's no point in beating a dead horse, and it's always better to just cut it before you end up sending too many emails and then getting a lot of people either marking you as spam or just hearing crickets because your emails aren't actually landing in the inbox themselves. Number 11, instead of using traditional follow-up sequences, use email to touch on a different pain point. So really there's a couple of different styles of offers, and the whole gist of it is you're essentially helping somebody save time, save money, make more money, or you're helping them just improve their overall well-being and their health. And so maybe when you're reaching out to somebody in email one, you touch on one pain point, maybe they don't actually care about, saving time, or maybe they don't actually care about making more money, and maybe what they do care about is saving time so that they could spend that extra time with their family. Number 12, use trigger event targeting. So when you're building out your lead list, you want to look for intent signals, and these are basically trigger events or intent signals that your buyers might have that would actually make them more likely to act on your solution or act on a certain situation. And these trigger events could be a number of different things, but one of them, for example, is maybe a company just received recent funding, and so they need to all of a sudden put a lot of that extra money that they raised into their growth strategy because they want to 5x their revenue over the next 3 quarters, so that way they could get acquired at a much higher multiple. You get the idea, but essentially you want to find intent signals that would make somebody more likely to act and respond to your email than if you were to just pull a basic lead list. Number 13, split test the things that actually matter. I see so many people that just make the mistake of focusing and spending way too much time on different subject lines or changing up the wording of 2 or 3 different words within their scripts. And all I could say is you're going to spend so much time being analytical about this stuff, but when in reality, the things that actually matter are things like the pain points, the probing questions that you're asking, or how you're actually positioning your offer, or the different call to actions. Maybe you're offering up a free sample lead list, like in my example before, or maybe you're just pushing directly for a call, or maybe you're not even including a clear call to action so prospects don't know what to do. The other thing is maybe you want to actually change and split test the markets that you are reaching out to. If you have an unproven product or a newer product that doesn't have message market fit, you might need to do some extra research and really just split test presenting that offer to a whole bunch of different industries or different personas within a specific industry. Number 14, stop focusing on just the company size or just the industry for company filtering, and instead try to match your ICPs based on pain points, their missions, their values, and product market fit. And so what's beautiful about today is that there's tools like ChatGPT and Claude that can actually do deep market research on your behalf, as if you have a market research analysis that's doing all this stuff one by one. And so with that deep market research and understanding your core values and what solution you can bring to the table that's addressing specific pain points, you could actually use ChatGPT to find untapped markets and different markets that you had never thought of that might even be a better fit than in your head what you think is the right, perfect client for your solution. Number 15, the last step that I'll recommend here today is to use a painkiller offer instead of a vitamin offer. What do I mean by that is if your offer is just a nice to have, like a vitamin offer, then it's not really gonna convert because the market is so saturated and people are receiving so many emails. It needs to be a painkiller like offer where it's really solving a specific urgent pain that your ICP simply can't ignore. It's like the tack in their foot that they need to get it out. And so an example of a vitamin generic offer might just be, if you're offering SEO services, we help businesses improve their SEO, while a painkiller offer is a lot more specific. We help ag tech software companies rank on the first page of Google to generate 20 inbound leads per month. And so these are 15 of the best tips that we've compiled after testing millions of cold emails after the past couple of years. However, there's plenty of changes to cold email in 2025 specifically that you need to be aware of before you go and implement these 15 best practices. So if that's you, don't worry, just stick around for the next video where I talk specifically about the changes to cold email in 2025. That way you make sure that you're landing in the inbox, prospects are responding to your emails, and you can actually start booking more qualified calls and scaling your revenue with cold email.